Welcome to the road to Blake Street Banter, where one of us knows what the word banter means, the other one's just along for the ride, and the other one's in the corner down there. So everybody just say hi to Mike in the corner. We're trying to figure out this dynamic, and so we're keep rolling with us as we try to figure this out. But Tyler, how you doing, big dog?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I feel like I know what the word banter means though now. I think we established that last time that for this pod we have to do an altered intro. I know the word banter now because I've been in your shoes once.
Yeah, you have. James is saying it in the other one, so maybe we do need a specific road to Blake Street cue there.
We really can't. We got something going. It's the greatest thing
Right.
to identify us.
What up, Steven? Thanks for joining us. Rockies Now could definitely do that. So if you have any ideas of a nice little intro for us, like we're here, but it doesn't mean we know what we're doing. So if you have any great ideas, put that in the chat and let's go with a road to Blake Street phrase there. But we have an official road to Blake Street. Unofficially, right? Like it still is yet to be announced. I don't know if you can shed some light on that. Like, is there like time wise, like why are the Rockies waiting for tomorrow to announce this move? And we can't see what the move is yet. We have to wait till we have at least 15 listeners in.
I guess it comes down to just like adhering to formalities, like to a T. We saw with they put Daniel Bart on the 60-day, right?
Yeah, he was the move for Goodman.
Yeah, that's right. That was like last moment. You know, they could have done it like days before. They knew they were going to do it, but you sort of just do it by. It's weird to say by necessity because it's sort of just last minute is how they do these things. So I'm sure it'll get announced right before the lineup card drops, and that's just the way. I think especially the Rockies go. They're much like we're gonna just do it when it's time to do it.
Yeah,
and they decide that the time to do it is like last minute,
like literally when they have to like submit the lineup card. There's probably like a little box at the bottom. Here's our IL placement, 10-day, 60-day, and they just kind of pencil it in. And maybe it's because like if it is a Nolan Jones injury, which I would put money on it responsibly that it's a Nolan Jones to the IL stint, because if you're being pulled after Mexico, and the news kind of was trickling out shortly after the Mexico City series. So I wonder if it's because it gives it an extra day. Like, all right, he's not on to the IL today. Like he's on the IL tomorrow. So that gives him like 2 days of recovery. But then you also see the retroactive IL placements, which is always interesting. Like retroactive to 2 days ago, I was like, well, why wasn't that announced? I wish I knew more about that kind of stuff. That would be very interesting. But I mean, we got to 21 viewers, so let's talk about Jordan Beck is officially a Colorado Rocky. Again, hasn't been announced by this team, by the squad, but it was reported by Vols 247, who said he was on a plane to Miami. Like him and Mike might be like 20 miles radius from each other right now, some way, somehow. So I guess we have to ask the question, is this going to be a Nolan Jones first call-up treatment? Or is it going to be the Brenton Doyle treatment? Like, all right, you're here for a long time. Let's roll with it. Let's start with that question first, I guess.
I mean, I guess because so ironically, Nolan Jones is 99% the corresponding move. Him going out to the injured list means there's a lot of playing time available, and we now have Hunter Goodman, Sean Bouchard on the roster, but I think Jordan Beck is that guy you just make time for. He's a little different from Nolan Jones. Nolan Jones was that guy they took on. They basically took a flyer on him. You know, the Cleveland was like, all right, we're sort of done with this guy. It wasn't a no-name trade, but Jordan Beck is a guy that the Rockies are going to just give every opportunity since he is a true Rockies guy that they drafted. So, he's probably going to get put on the bench every once in a while, like while he's up at least. Who knows how long this stint goes for. It might be like an every other day kind of thing now, which that would be frustrating. But he's going to play more than, the Nolan Jones Seattle thing last year that blew everybody's mind where he just was up for 3 days and didn't play.
I mean, I want to say yes, Tyler. I think you're right. But you just listed, I think, the reasons why I don't believe you, because you have Shard, you have Goodman, you have Chuck still in the mix, you kind of still have the hot corner trying to be figured out with Chris or and Monty. Like, is Tolia like if Tolia's the 27th man, so he's not going to be on the squad, so he's kind of out of it. I still think you just have too many outfielders and to get Jordan Beck that first time playing time right away. So what? There's going to be 27 innings roughly in Miami. He probably plays 9 of them, maybe 12. Maybe he gets a late inning call.
I mean, I'm going to go 18. I think he plays
You're
tomorrow. He plays tomorrow and then plays either Tuesday or either Wednesday or Thursday also. But I'm guessing that maybe against a righty. I mean, they have a bunch. But it's going to be 2 games. That's what I know. It's going to be 2 games of the 3 in Miami.
You're going 2 of the 3. I'm going 1 of the 3 with maybe like an 8-9 inning put in. It's Buddy Black, and it's nothing against him. This isn't me dogging on Buddy Black. It's just he doesn't do like this. Everything screams a short stint, right? Doesn't seem like he's going to be part of the lineup like Tovar and Doyle were last year. And when it's not that kind of thing, it doesn't seem he likes to do those kind of things. If that makes sense. He wants his veterans to play. You have Bouchard and Goodman are those veterans right now that are going to take those away, right?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But again, I'm gonna hang my hat on the fact that he's their first rounder, not for some of these guys that do come up, they're not that golden child, someone who's given so much pressure to perform. And then also, based on the Thomas Harding article, he was kind of saying if either Blackman or Bryant were not on this roster in this organization, he might have broken camp with the team.
That.
Like it seems like they really just view this guy in another like stratosphere. And I think because of that, they're going to give him every opportunity to make them look good. I think that's sort of a cynical spin on like why they're going to play him a lot. I think it comes down to making the organization look good that, hey, we have this guy who is going to come in and create excitement around the team again.
Pushback, just to play devil's advocate, with all the call-ups that have happened this year and how poorly they've gone, do you think they don't play him so they don't have the pushback that is the Rockies fan base? Because if Jordan Beck doesn't meet those expectations, there might be more pushback because fans are ridiculous.
I think there's different things going on in Rocky land where they're operating on their own wavelength, and they've seen the Jackson Holiday thing happen, but they're going to go their own way.
Rockies
he might get sent back down whenever Nolan Jones comes back, but I think it'll be a little bit different than some of the things we've seen.
I do agree with you. I do not believe anything I said as the devil's advocate. I think we're at a point where we should not be putting all this pressure on prospects, and I think most people understand that. If he does start out poorly, just don't be a dick and just don't bring him down. Like, we don't need to be, he's terrible. Like, this is going to happen to anybody. This is a fantastic question by Jack here on Worsama on YouTube. If they are not going to play back as an everyday type, I would have preferred Hilliard, I think. And that's kind of had that in the back of my mind. I would say Coco Montez type thing, because he kind of is a utility and can do that. Like, that's where I think I'm going to get mad, is if he gets the call up and he really doesn't play the 12 innings I predict in these 3-game set. Like, if he is just to be there to get the cup of coffee, literally, for the whole dugout, that's where I think I'm going to get mad. Not if he doesn't perform. And that's that's the biggest freak out I have, because it's the Rockies.
Yeah, I think Jack's the point that Jack made though raises sort of the point. I should have mentioned this already. the fact that you mentioned Hilliard, you're talking about another guy to be added to the 40 man, and that just is a new complex element that we have to talk about. That who was the corresponding 40 man move so that Jordan Beck can come up, because again, the Rockies, we mentioned with Daniel Bard at the top of the show, they don't just make 40 man spots to make 40 man spots. They are very particular about who's going to come on the 40 man, who's going to go to the 60 day, who's going to get DFA. They really only do it when they have to. And I think having to is we're going to treat this guy a little bit differently. But let's segue into what that corresponding 40 man move is. Regardless if it was Beck or anybody else that's not on the 40 man, there's a couple options that I think we have for that 40 man roster spot. Either you 60 day someone or you DFA somebody. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
So I think you're teaching me right now. So if somebody goes on the 10 day, that doesn't open up a 40 man. It has to be the 60 day.
Yeah, and that's the part about 60 days on the injury. Like you make the decision if you want to create that spot, you have to put this guy on the shelf for at least 60 days. So
okay.
That is where that extra spot can come from. So of 60-day candidates, I mean, maybe we see the sky is falling with Chris Bryant, and that the Rockies are like, you can retroactively date it, and he's already been on the injured list for a while, but he could go on at the 60-day and have to miss an additional probably 40 days, somewhere in that range. So it could be Chris Bryant to the 60-day injured list.
That is something to think about. And then you have, that's interesting. Could you imagine the backlash?
That'll be a little bit messy if that does happen.
I do not want that. I can't handle that. I'm not even like part of all of that. That would be terrible. But like Jake Cave, who's done exactly what he's supposed to be doing. I don't think that's the move either. I'm looking at some of these names that are in the minors on the 40-day I think they could probably choose to DFA a few of these guys. Not saying they deserve it or anything, but
we saw with Bernabel and people were freaking out, but it's like prospects on the 40 man are not going to get picked up by other teams unless they are like doing something that warrants another team putting them on their 40 man.
Exactly.
So I think I know where you're going with that there. And Mike kind of prompted us on this. Julio Carreras. Is that guy. I'm not sure I see it because they already did that with Bernabel. It is sort of taking two risks, but it is a logical spot to go. And I mean, the thing with Jake Cave, I don't think it can be Jake Cave because they already, they're the corresponding move also to get back up there is a left-handed outfielder. So, and if you get rid of Jake Cave, you have to bring another guy up to fill that active roster spot. So I think in some ways, Nolan Jones going to the injured list means it's not going to be someone on the active roster that's heading out. So we're playing a little detective game here. Mm-hmm. It almost makes you think it's going to be someone who's not on the active roster.
Yeah.
And that's Chris Bryant. That's Julio Carreras. I don't know how more creative you can get. That I guess would sort of rule out Alan Trejo. I don't think would be an option, but possibly. So that'll be an interesting thing to see tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm most intrigued by. And please don't let it be KB to the 60-day. That people would absolutely lose it. And then I guess let's kind of put a cap on the Beck here. I guess why is he not these other top prospects? Like, what is it about Jordan Beck that is a little bit different than Ryan Vilade, Colton Welker, David Dahl, who was great for a few years and then injury kind of brought him down. But like, why is Jordan Beck Mike Honcho? Like, why is this actually going to be what it's supposed to be?
I mean, I think the most important thing to start with, and this isn't like a compliment for the Rockies, but scouting has come a lot further in the last few years. That I think that guys like Welker, Vilade, and I threw in the rundown Kyle Parker. I just love anytime we can talk about Kyle Parker. I want to talk about Kyle Parker. Those guys, like they would not have been viewed as highly in today's game. There were guys, well, especially Valade and Walker, guys that didn't hit the ball all that hard. They were contact guys, and contact guys that don't have great approaches, that don't hit the ball very hard, they usually don't pan out that well. Beck is a modern baseball player, and the game is adapting for guys like that. Power is there, more power than any of those. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Kyle Parker had more power. I don't know. But Kyle Parker couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
He struggled.
All due respect to that man. I'm sure he's watching the show right now. And then David Dahl, it was a crazy time with David Dahl being Rocky. Like the weirdest injuries that a baseball player can have, and he had 2 or 3 of them. So I think Rockies fans are reasonable to have their expectations for top prospects like this tempered. There's been a lot in the past few years that, 2 years into their Rockies career, and it's been only downhill. So I can understand that. But Jordan Beck, he's like you said, he's Mike Honcho.
Yeah, and I think that's what we have to go through. If the Players Weekend was actually allowing players to put nicknames on it, that jersey sells more than anybody else's, except for maybe Mookie Betts or like Shohei. But that Mike Honcho player jersey would have been sick if that they allowed to have fun with that. But the MLB doesn't like to do that. I think you're right. There's more aspects to what Jordan brings to the game than what those guys. I saw some discourse on this, and I've seen some of the stats, and for what Jordan Beck is doing this year, it doesn't seem to be a thing. But the strikeout rates, when he went to Double A last year, he was striking out at about 30% of the time after his call up from Spokane. In Spokane, he was striking out about 22%. This year so far, I think he's about at 18%. Like his strikeouts have gone down and his walk rate has gone up. Maybe Mike can look up those exact stats for me to make sure I'm not completely out of line. But I know the bad numbers went down, the good numbers went up. Is this a product of the PCL? Is this who Jordan Beck is? Did he figure it out? Are we concerned at all about, I guess, major league strikeout rates? Because we kind of saw it at Double A.
I mean, I guess it is a depends kind of question. No, but more so than anything, I think it's a mix of what you were saying. I think in the PCL, pitches don't move as much. That's altitude's effect. A lot of pitches aren't going to move as much, so easier to make contact. And then also, I think guys are going to be a little bit more aggressive in the PCL. His walk rate increasing says he's probably not being more aggressive. I think more of it is the pitch recognition being a little easier in the PCL. And then also I think that he realized he had to cut down the strikeouts this year if he was going to take that next step. So I think we're going to see reduced strikeouts from 2023 in Hartford, 31.8%. He's not that guy. He's also not a 19.8 strikeout rate guy, which is where it's at right now. I think he settles in as a 24 to 26% strikeout guy. I know we have a friend of the pod, Luke, who is a big proponent of strikeouts being bad, and I don't think anyone wants to strike out, but strikeouts are part of the game at this point. Jordan Beck's not going to be a top of the league type of hitter. If you strike out 25% of the time, right, you almost can't be top of the league unless you're Aaron Judge. But it does not mean he can't be an above average hitter at the major league level.
Right, and then I think that this will be our bow on the Beck cap here. It's understand what the expectations are. Like Jordan Beck, he is a fantastic player. He's going to be a major leaguer for a long time, but he's not coming in out of the gates being I'm not going to say his name, but like a Mookie Betts or like a Shohei Ohtani, just like a crazy talent. Like it's going to be fantastic when he gets there in a few years, but he's not going to start out that way. It just can't do it. Fangraphs is predicting 25% strikeout rate in Major League Baseball, but that's Fangraphs, so we'll take that what it is. So be excited, right? We have Jordan Beck. We have the call-up. The Rockies are going to lose 120 games, but at least we're going to have fun doing it. Hopefully, that whatever the corresponding move is, whatever Buddy Black decides to do with these, I'm assuming 15 days, so to speak, with Nolan Jones going to IL. Again, that's where we're putting our money in. All right, so let's go to Albuquerque. Albuquerque had a fun week. lots of runs being scored in Albuquerque. They scored, I think, 9 runs in 4 of the 6 games, something absolutely ridiculous. The pitching was actually pretty solid at the end. They only allowed 3 walks in back-to-back games, which is actually unheard of from the Isotope staff this year. Don't know what it was about Saturday and Sunday, but no strikeouts or no walks given up. But then there's Riley Pint, who I think makes us all, not him, but the Pint story wants us to have an extra pint, because we just can't figure out this man. I'm sure he's just as confused by it as well. I wonder if it has anything to do with the ABS system that they're being used in AAA, and if there's that. I can't say I've been able to watch enough. But Riley Pint, in your words, Tyler, has had the weirdest season of all time. 8 strikeouts, 4 walks this week, 3 innings pitched in that. But like, we know who Riley Pint is. What does Riley Pint have to do to become a staple in the Arm Barn to kind of, I don't know, just be in Coors?
I mean, we all know and see it with him. Just the dude's command is, it's different every day. A lot of it comes down to his mechanics. If you watch him pitch, it's not traditional orthodox. He's got a lot of moving parts and quite a bit of effort to get to the plate. He'll never throw strikes that much. That's just a reality with him. But he can't walk more guys than innings pitched. That's sort of the thing. And somehow he's been successful this year doing that. I don't know the exact numbers on the year, walks, innings pitched, but he's got to get the walks well below the number of innings pitched. And then this dude could be a legit reliever at the MLB level.
Yes, he could. I mean, what else do we have to lose? I don't get it. His stuff is nasty. His stuff is insane. I think part of his strikeout rate is the erraticness of it, which is kind of fun. But he has a 3.86 ERA, a 1.64 WHIP. So he has a 1.64 WHIP in these 14 innings pitched, 15 walks through those 14, 26 strikeouts. So, like, even if he just drops it down just a little bit, dude man's getting the call. I don't know. I much rather, I think I want the Rockies just to take a flyer on Pint next. Like, we got Beck. We got in this action. Give us a Pint in the barn. Like, I just lean into it, give him more than 0.1 innings pitched, and just let's all experience Riley Pint together at altitude. And just,
it's sort of written in the stars for this club. His name is Pint. We play at Coors Field, but also he's the former 4th overall pick. He retired from baseball at one point. The talent level is crazy. Like, at some point, it's just going to happen. It's going to click in some way, and there's going to be a lot of walks, but it's going to click.
And hopefully they allow it to click soon. The Isotopes are kind of doing a patchwork process for the rotation. They've added a Battenfield and a Danish to the squad. Neither one did extremely well their opening game. Hopefully some of that gets figured out, just so there can be some dogs while they try to figure out what to do. I mean, there's really 3 starters, so to speak, that the Rockies kind of can possibly lean on, with Carl Kaufman, Noah Davis, and Jeff Criswell. But obviously Jeff Criswell is becoming a long reliever. They're formatting him to that. Carl Kaufman had some of his best outings last year at the major league level were relief pitchers. Noah Davis, I thought he did fantastic when he was in relief a few weeks ago when he was called up. There's no real major league starters at the AAA level, which is a little concerning. And I do believe Noah Davis could be an effective starter. I think Carl Kaufman could possibly figure it out and do his thing there too. But like, we have these guys, like I think we talk about him every single day. And this is my little transition from AAA to AA. Carson Palmquist. Like, do we see any of these big 3 to kind of help push up to the AAA, so we actually have some talent literally knocking on the door at that level?
I mean, I think that the weird thing that is starting to become real for the Rockies, and we kind of more recently saw with Ryan Feltner. It's not the first time that someone went Double-A to the majors. I think with a lot of these top Rockies pitching prospects, I think we're going to start seeing that a little bit more. I think that's why Carson Palmquist he's not in AAA right now, is because he's probably not going to spend a lot of time there. It's an environment that can I think throw things off for guys big time. It's an important challenge for some guys, but for someone like Palmquist that hey, this guy checks a ton of boxes, more boxes than perhaps any pitcher in the organization right now, especially in terms of readiness. Why risk throwing things off for him trying to overcompensate at the AAA level? So I think he might go from Double-A to the bigs if the next time there's a need. Say Austin Gomber goes to the injured list. It might be. I mean, you're not going to force that right away, but in a couple months, that might be Carson Palmquist just going to the bigs from Double-A.
And that would be awesome. I would love to have somebody be able to research this part, but like the last time we've really seen a Double-A to Major League jump, I don't know if we've ever seen that in the Rocky system, but maybe this is what the analytics department's kind of looking at, is kind of like what you're saying. Like, what's the point of going to AAA and learning how to pitch in Albuquerque at that altitude and that kind of stuff? Because I don't think I'm too far off, and maybe there's some research that can be done with it. Like, that could affect like a Noah Davis with his stuff that is crazy movement, crazy tinkering. Like, I wonder if you would have just done a Noah Davis to the major league level where you're playing more of a even playing field outside of Coors. I understand that, but like, you're not in that high altitude every single week, like when you're going to Reno or El Paso or any of these other places. Like, there's got to be something to what you just said. Are the Rockies doing it right?
the technology at the big league level, I mean, we know for sure, like, they've got a humidor they spent a ton of money on. I don't know exactly what they have in all the PCL parks. But then also when it comes to the advanced scouting and game planning, like, they're able to do a lot more to try and mitigate altitude. Whereas I think when it comes to the AAA level, and I don't want to act like they're not doing advanced things in the minors, but I think there's a bit of just go out there and pitch in the minors, at least a little bit more than there is at the big league level. At the big league level, every pitch is pre-planned, basically the day before in some ways. You plan how you're going to attack each hitter. And at AAA, I just think that there's an element of less of that. So going to the big leagues and pitching at altitude there at Coors Field, there's some challenges that are undone because of the technology that they're able to, and the extra resources that they do have. So, you have the humidor in Albuquerque, but just what else are they doing in order to mitigate the effects of altitude? It's kind of not something I know enough about.
I mean, I think we just figured out the Rockies. Like, are we the Rockies analytics department? Just do this, especially. Again, I think this kind of goes back to the off-season conversation you and I had about why don't they just throw these guys in to the major league level to get these innings. And you were talking about innings having to pitch the 100+ innings effectively, because like if you're getting ran out of the third inning a whole bunch of times, like you're not really learning or doing much. But my counter argument to that from 2 or 3 months ago is what you just said. Like, let's go figure it out with all the best tools that we possibly have when you clearly have the stuff to be part of the major league roster, and we believe in you to be the major league roster. So like, let's just make you part of that and let's figure it out together. Like, I just think we could have had more success from a Noah Davis in particular with that kind of setup where you're not tinkering at it. Like Ryan Feltner, he's the closest thing I can come up with from Double-A to Major League. He spent 2.2 innings in Albuquerque in 2021 before he got his first kind of Major League action in Colorado. So like,
well, actually, he actually went from the big leagues to AAA Double A to
yeah,
the big
it was
leagues
backwards,
and then
right?
down. So
Okay.
he is that example of a guy that they did do that with.
I was wondering because like as I was talking, it's like no, I'm pretty sure he made his debut before he got sent down. So that makes sense. And in his 2.2 innings pitched in Albuquerque, like did he learn anything there? Like where he only had 6.1 innings pitched in Colorado. So I was like, why not just let him stay up there? I don't know. Like what did that do to his psyche? Because he was up and down the next year. I don't know. There's something to that, and so maybe a scout or an analytics department guy can get back to us with that. I think there's something there though. I think we just figured it out. I'd like to.
I think it's an
believe I did.
important challenge for Rockies players to spend some time there at some point, but also it's just not a place you want to stash your pitchers. And I
No,
think that's part of the reason why the Isotopes pitching staff is not very good. There's some guys there that they view as part of the future. Those are also guys who like really spent their time in Double A, and they're sort of tweeners right now. You have to adhere to the structure of the minor leagues at the end of the day and make sure that you have younger guys in Double A than you do at Triple A,
mm-hmm.
and not just put your best pitchers in Double A. But I think moral of the story, I think Carson Palmquist is going to hit a Double A to the big leagues this season.
That would be awesome. And then I think it was Luke. Was it Luke or Isaac in our group chat that said Jake Sommer is moving to Double A from the Triple A? Kind of shows that the Rockies believe in what Jake Sommers can do and provide. Instead of DFAing him, they're like, no, go down and do your thing in Hartford and work on it. And we saw them do that last year with Stephen Jones. Saw it a few years ago, or a few times with some other players too. So I wonder. I think we just kind of figured out the Rockies in a roundabout way. In my opinion, make Double A the home for good pitchers and Triple A the home for good hitters before they go to the majors. Jack, not a terrible thought. I mean, not a terrible thought. All right, so let's move to Hartford. Brought you by Daily Controls. I don't have the ad read in front of me, but basically dailycontrolsllc.com. Hit it up. Go check it out. Buttons don't work. All of your automation needs are done. Data Controls LLC can handle that. He will travel to you. He'll fix any automation issues that you have. I know there's a bunch of words in the ad that I don't understand, so you might not be missing too much here right now. But he has a website. You can email him info@dailycontrolsllc.com and tell him Blake Street Banter sent you and just say what's up. That's all he wants. So go check out our boy, Daily Controls LLC. Hartford, 4-2, officially beat the Portland Sea Dogs, who were ranked ahead of them of the top 10 minor league teams this year. I think Hartford was 8 or 9, and I think the Sea Dogs were kind of in the middle. I'm sure Mike can help me out with that. But the Hartford beat them 4-2 this week in the series, 12-7 on the year. Is Amador a BABIP, like getting hurt by the BABIP? So Dude Man hasn't found his stroke yet. I think he's still hitting under 200. Amador's BABIP is 200. Like usually when we see the BABIP down that low, there's usually something that's changing, right?
Yeah, and I'm sorry for what I'm about to say, but right now when Adael Amador goes to bed, he expects he's going to find a big scary BABIP under his bed. I love saying that stat out loud, the BABIP. He's absolutely being haunted by the BABIP right now. It's sitting at 200. We have, the Jordan Beck thing we didn't really get into is his BABIP and that the average AAA batting average on balls in play. Something over 320 is not really high, but 320 is on the higher end. It's above average. 200 is way below average. So of what I've seen from Amador, a lot of balls he's putting in play, he's not getting a great swing on, which is sort of where those are going to be eaten by the BABIP. The BABIP is going to just take away weak ground balls. They're never going to be hits, but things are going to normalize at some point. And if Amador's BABIP goes up to 300, that theoretically is a 100 point increase to his batting average. And I don't know, that would put him, close to 300. He's walking more than anyone else in the Eastern League. So he is a poltergeist BABIP away from being really good this year.
Poltergeist Batman. This guy, like, and it's insane to think about that. Like, his walk rate's insane, his OBP is insane, and yet he's still just doing everything he can to do good things. Like, he's making good contact, and yet the Hartford Yard Goats are still winning a bunch of games. Yankiel Fernandez, also a merchant, like getting some things figured out. I mean, thanks to Mike with his stats here, but I think it's time to just prepare ourselves for a Yankiel Fernandez surge, because Dude Man's about to go off. His K rate has dropped 35% to 34% from last year in AA to 24% now. Kind of like what we talked about, Jordan Beck. Him and Yank went up at the same time. Both struggles mightily with strikeouts, and both seem to kind of figure it out, right? The big thing with Yankiel so far, I think it's like, what, 60, 70 at bats, 59 plate appearances. So sample size is still small. He was gone for a few games for personal reasons. But his walk rate is doubling. So he's about 12% this year. He still has the power. He's still two home runs, 3 doubles in that time. He's still 14 RBIs in those 16 games. So he's still producing, even if he's not hitting, so to speak. And that slugging percentage is still around 408. I think if you were to put any stock into anybody about to break out and kind of get everybody's attention again, the same way he did last year, Yankiel Fernandez is about to be that guy.
Yeah, it's been all, I mean, I can't say all encouraging on his front, but seeing that strikeout reduction, the walk rate doubling, as you mentioned, I mean, his line is above average for the Eastern League. So it's a 102 WRC plus. It's like a 740 OPS. Like, those aren't the prettiest numbers. We want to see better. This dude is still super young. He's barely 21 years old, and he is playing at an above average rate in the Eastern League. That is, anyone that can check those boxes, being under 22 in an above average line in AA, that's a good sign that this guy is going to become a good big leaguer. And he's also having a bit of an issue with the batting average on balls in play. If he starts getting a little bit more luck, he'll all of a sudden be hitting 350, or not 350, 250, and everything else is gonna increase. So Yankiel Fernandez has a lot of growth to realize, just as luck turns his way.
Yes, exactly. And then he's got this clutch gene, I guess. So looking at Baseball Reference, with 2 outs and runners in scoring position, he has 18 at bats. He's had 5 hits in those, OPS in 881, and he has 7 RBIs in those 18 at bats. So producing half the time? I mean, a third of the time, but still getting 7 RBIs in those. That's pretty solid with 2 outs in particular with runners in scoring position. So that's something that you don't really see on the normal traditional stat line. So Dude Man is he's able to kind of settle himself down, which is a big key into what he's doing. His strike rate's going down and his walk rate going up. So love to see that. Hartford, I mean, pitching staff is coming back down to earth. A little worrisome about that. Albright finally had a pretty decent outing. Not as great as I think I would really expect from him. I know Jared Candy kind of struggled out of the gate with his 4 or 5 innings in his outing. Kazada, he did his thing. So pitching staff is kind of coming back to light. The arm barn is still lights out. I don't know how anybody does anything against Chivilli and Mejia and Hill at the back of that arm barn there. But Braxton Fulford hit his first home run. Sterling Thompson hit his first home run. So seeing some of that power, Sterling Thompson, I think, is doing really well. He's starting to get it figured out. I think his average is popping up a little bit. 7 hits and home run, 3 walks to 1 K this week. So the bats are starting to come around with the Yard Goats, which is kind of scary to say with how well they've been playing with that. One thing I'm watching closely, if you're checking in my daily recap every morning, is bad Vladimir Restituyo walks. We talked about it last week. Dude Man just doesn't walk, and I think he had 3 walks this week. It might have been 2, but he had a few free passes, which is good. I want more walks. Walks are an okay thing to do. They're also getting a ton of stolen bases. Leads the league in stolen bases with 44. Next is 31. Caught stealing with 2, which is kind of crazy because I think both of those are Zach Bean. And one was like this past week. Terrible base running by him on that one this week. It was like the one game I was able to watch. I don't know why that's not translating because I know Isotopes steal some bases too. I'm not sure why we're not seeing more bases at the major league level. You have so much speed up there. I don't know. I mean, we saw Ryan Mack do it in Mexico City, and he didn't get it. So maybe there's a reason for it. I don't know. Like it's working in the minors. Like why can't we do it? Figure it out in the majors. Spokane. So let's go to Spokane for literally just a little bit because they only played just a little bit. 6 games, 2 played. Last game was played on Wednesday. They won both of them, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday were all rained out, postponed. Not sure what the plan is to make that up with the Vancouver Canadians, but it is just absolutely insane that 66% of your weekly games got rained out. So Connor Stain not being with the big league with that squad there up in Canada, not that big of a deal because Mason Green and Blake Adams absolutely shoved. Both go scoreless. Both did their thing. I'd like to see this from both of them because they kind of struggled in Spokane a little bit last year after their midseason call-ups. So that's great. And then Kyle Carroll seems to, him and Dion just have the whole offense on their back every single day. So Kyle Carros, I think he's going to be a force to reckon with soon too. We got to see these call-ups mid-May. We got to. All right, Fresno. This one's a fun one. Fresno. What do the Grizzlies and the Colorado Rockies and the whole organization do with Jake Snyder? And why is this dude, man, grandpa of the league, so to speak, even in Fresno? It's so frustrating.
I mean, to start him there, it made sense. Like there's guys out there they want to play, and the organization needs someone who can play. So it's a great mutual relationship. Someone like Jake Snyder gets to keep his career going. Fresno gets to insert a guy into a lineup that didn't have a lot of talent going into the year. But Jake Snyder is making a statement to the organization saying, like, this is not enough of a challenge for me. Like I belong somewhere else. So he was sort of there to just provide some stability to that lineup. But nobody saw like a 1,200 OPS a month into the season. Nobody saw that coming. And the Rockies have got to do something with that because, yeah, he was brought in to be like a gap filler, but he's doing way more than that. And you just can't do that to a player. He has totally earned his spot with Spokane at least. He had 6 walks and 0 strikeouts this week. Like he goes up there and he's expecting to get on base. Like,
It's insane.
It's kind of delusional for a regular hitter to be like, every time I go up, I'm going to get on base. Jake Snyder can actually attest to that right now. Like every time he goes up there, he is pretty much getting on base. So get that dude to Spokane and just let him ride. If this is kind of his career on the back burners right now, like let him ride it out instead of doing it in Fresno.
Yeah,
a level that he's basically been at for 3 years in his career.
It's time to let the man eat. You said his OPS is 1,200. You probably know what his OBP is, but I like to play this game with you. What do you think his on base percentage sits at?
It's more than half. I know that. Which, I mean, for a month into the year, that's like over 500 is crazy. I know it's higher than that though too.
It's 612, so not quite half. 613 OBP. And the crazy thing is, Duman only has 1 home run. Like he's getting the power with these extra bases, these doubles and triples. And he just likes to run the bases, I guess. So Jake Snyder, please be a Spokane Indian soon. We got to keep moving that. Glenn Allen Hill, I forgot they signed him in the offseason. Glenn Allen Hill Jr., so to speak, not the senior, is a Colorado Rocky, and he is kind of a veteran presence right now in the Fresno Grizzly lineup. Hit his first homer. Not sure. Like I know he's been around. I don't know much about his career path and how he kind of got where he is, but I feel like he was around a few years ago at a AAA level. Like I remember thinking he played against the Isotopes, but he is now with the Fresno Grizzlies in the Cali League. Wellington Herrera, I was saying this guy's name a few times on the daily recap. 7 Ks in those 3 scoreless innings. 20-year-old left-hander that might have a promising future. 19 Ks in those 9.2 innings pitched. And I know I just took your words off of that, the rundown there from you. But I know you have something in the cabinet back there. What can you tell me more about Wellington Herrera and like why is he so good? Again, I haven't been able to watch him, so I can't really speak to what I see. It's just like I'm saying his name a lot.
I mean, I wish I could provide like more legitimate insight, but he was a pretty legitimate, like to use the word again, a legitimate signing for the Rockies and the international game. And this is a lefty who's just turned 20, like on opening day, pretty much. He's always struck out a ton of guys. So this is really nothing new for him. I think what's just insane is that he's working at 19-0 strikeout to walk ratio. Like right now we're seeing crazy stuff from a 20-year-old in single A. It just doesn't happen very often. So Wellington Herrera, I need to actually watch him. It's tough, especially with relief pitchers, to catch them in some of the minor league games, especially on the West Coast, that they're kind of late. But Wellington Herrera is a force to be reckoned with. And I want to swing back to Glenn Allen Hill real quick. I think what you were thinking of is the last, or now second to last manager before Warren Schaefer of the Albuquerque Isotopes was Glenn Allen Hill.
That is what it is. Yes.
Yeah. And so Junior is, if we remember, I forget what Baylor, Jamari Baylor, I believe was last year. And we don't know to this day if that's actually a relative of Don Baylor, but very similar in that they were both these high round draft picks out of high school, middle infielders that just did not find their footing with their last organization. Glenn Allen Hill Junior was drafted by the D-backs in 2019.
Okay.
Didn't get above the single A level, but now he's with the Rockies. Maybe this is where he can find a little bit of magic again. So we just had to talk about, there is some Rockies bloodline there, 100%. I don't know. We don't know about Jamari Baylor from last year. Also, just hope that Jamari Baylor is doing well. His stint with the Rockies last year was a little unfortunate. Was hoping it would go better.
It was a confusing one because he wasn't terrible, and he had played at 2-3 different levels. It was weird,
and he's still young. So, but anyway, interesting stuff. Love those tidbits.
Yes, the starting staff kind of came down to earth too. Kopay and Mahoney, Jack Mahoney, just like Carson Palmquist, didn't start off the gate too great, but kind of was able to kind of get through 5 innings or so. Isaiah Kopay got lit up. Jace Kaminska gave up some runs yesterday too. So kind of the first real struggles for that hot Cali starting crew there. Just something to watch out going forward. I don't know. Maybe we talk about this. Maybe this is where we end it, and then we'll go to Mike for some of the promos to look forward to this week. But at what point do we see Drew Romo? Is it Romo time? He's not showing any power, but he's showing he can hit. He's still switch hitting. He's still managing the pitching staff pretty well, and which some of those games are very long for him, and he's still able to come out every single day and still produce with the stick. We have Diaz. Stallings has been pretty solid. I'm not mad about the Stallings being the backup catcher. Very, very similar to last year's not Mason Wins. I would love to have Mason Wins, but who was the catcher last year that we kind of came around on? Austin Wins. Very it's an okay thing, right? But it's time to bring in the fresh start, right? So do we see Drew Romo in June? Do we see him September call up? I mean, he's kind of doing what he's supposed to. Obviously, a little bit more power, but I guess kind of what is your kind of take on Drew Romo as we kind of recap this?
Well, let's start with some tea leaf reading. I think Jacob Stallings is basically this year's Mike Moustakas, a veteran who had some down years before coming to the Rockies. but showed enough that teams are going to be interested. Jacob Stallings, I'm sure that he's not going to hit this way the entire season, but when he's been out there, he's hit. He should have hit a walk-off homer a couple days ago, but that was ridiculous.
Another time.
Anyway, though, he's running a 121 WRC plus. He's always been a good defender, so I think Jacob Stallings gets traded at some point, and when he gets traded, that's Drew Romo time, because Drew Romo has to get added to the 40-man at the end of the season. The 2020 high school draft picks and the 2021 college draft picks. Those guys are Rule 5 eligible, so they've got to be added to the 40-man or subject to the Rule 5 draft. Drew Romo is just like a young Kiel Fernandez last year. He's a lock to get protected. So might as well push the timeline on that up further and just get him on there and get him some experience this year. So I'll go. It's just whenever Stallings is traded, I'm going to say that's around the trade deadline. Someone wants a backup catcher. So
okay.
What would that be?
August
1st.
August 1st. Stallings is a midnight deal going away. I guess it's like at 4 p.m. now, but he's gone. Drew Romo's a Rocky in August. All right, heard it here first. Why I don't know, kind of like what we talked about with Beck. It's just let's just do fun things. Let's just get these kids up. Let's get the experience. Let's get them figuring out what it does. Because we saw good things with Brinson Doyle so far. Knock on wood. We've seen Tovar's doing his thing in the leadout spot. Like we're seeing these sophomore years kind of play itself out for a few of these guys. Monty's hitting the ball well. He's hitting it hard. The traditional numbers aren't showing it. And he's able to hit a curveball this year. So like there's some good things happening with some of the adjustments these kids made after some experience in the majors. So let's just go all in. Just call them all up. Just you get a call up. You get a call up. You get a call up. Just let's go Oprah on their ass and just call everybody up. Speaking of Oprah giving away things, promos. So we're going to try to kind of cap our pod off a little bit with Mike here, who we'll give him a big screen. Not that big though.
I'm here.
We'll go there. He's going to give us a recap of some of the home series, things to look out for in the promos this week. Do your thing.
Yeah, this is my time to shine, I guess. So only 2 teams with home games, so you don't get promotions on the away. But we got Albuquerque Saturday, their little league night. Kids can run the bases and they do fireworks for that night. Sunday, everybody's favorite, the Mariachis game. The jerseys are coming out. Probably the best jerseys in baseball up there. And the second team we have is Spokane. They haven't played in a week, so Wednesday they're doing Smokey the Bear Night, which sort of ironic considering it's been raining in the Northwest for, I guess, forever. It just hasn't stopped. So I don't know what Smokey the Bear is going to teach people because I think the rain's keeping away the fire. Thursday's Bark in the Park Night. Everybody loves dogs. Saturday's interesting. They do an Expo 74. I think it's, do the math, their 50-year anniversary of the Expos or something like that. The jerseys are cool. They're one-off jerseys, fireworks, awesome stuff. And then Sunday, it's a Copa de la Diversion. I just butchered that. But anyway, increase awareness, authentic engagement, and attendance with the U.S. Hispanics. So that's awesome. I know Albuquerque does a bunch of stuff like that. So there you go.
I have a question to ask about just the Tuesday in Spokane or Wednesday in Spokane. Who is the better bear, Smokey or Parker T. Bear down in Fresno?
That's a stupid question. Yeah,
I mean, one of them needs a little bit more name recognition.
Parker T. Bear needs it. Like one prevents fires and one gets the fire going.
One starts.
One is starting the fire because he gets us so riled up. Parky T Bear all day. The Expo 74, I think we need to make it clear. It is not a nod to the Montreal Expos or anything like that. Okay. It is a 50-year anniversary of kind of like the World's Fair type thing. Yeah. In 1974, Spokane became the smallest city to ever host a World's Fair. So it's a 50-year anniversary of that expo, so to speak. So just so we're not confused. Yeah.
Makes a lot.
That's cool.
I was a little confused. The jerseys are sick. It's a nice little promo. It's fun. So I that's a good one. If anybody's up there taking pictures, get some live action shots of those jerseys there. It'll be fun. Yeah, and then the Copa de la Diversion. That's their first time they're going to be showing off the cup of coffee colors, right? I don't think they've had it.
I think
yet.
so. Yeah.
So
minor leagues is a sucker for alternate jerseys. They love them.
Yeah, and they're alternate. That's like a cup of coffee. It's bright yellow. I almost bought the hat, but just the $40 plus shipping, it just freaks me out. So if somebody can give me a free promo code for USPS, I don't know, we'll sponsor it. Holler at your boy. But that'll be fun. 2 back-to-back nights of cool logos. I wonder who would start those nights. Those would be fun auction buys. That might be I don't know who starts Fridays and Saturdays for Spokane, but we're getting off the rails. It's me getting off the rails. It's late. I'm over it. I'm tired. So anything for the good of the cause, fellas?
I'm spent as well.
A lot of excitement, unofficially excited until about noon or 3 o'clock tomorrow Eastern Standard Time. So look for that and see what that call up is, or that alternating move is with the Jordan Beck call up. We are probably right. Probably just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Thank you here, Chris. Got here on the tail end. Thanks for coming back. But keep an eye out. We're gonna have some. Let's just do fun things, and the Rockies just got a little bit more exciting. As always, go Rocks and the minor league affiliates. Woo! Thank you for watching and listening. Please check out our link tree for more content.